welcome you on into another episode of the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. It's Mitch Spinell alongside Mitchell Ballard to give you the latest of what's going on in the sporting world. It's good to be back with you, Mitch.
Good to be back with you as well. NFL is back this week. Week 4 high school football, week 2 of college football. Lots to talk about.
Absolutely. Before we get into this, guys, I want to remind you that this week on Big Time Sports, we will have on Friday the Garaway versus Carrollton matchup for you coming up on Big Time Sports, as well as the local broadcast network. You can also check that game out at 11 p.m. that Friday night on WIVMTV.com, as well as Saturday at 2 p.m. You can go to our website, BigTimeSportsOhio.com, for more information, as well as the info about the podcast here. So, Mitch, we talked about it. We're going into some of these games this week, a number of matchups here. The big one for me, at least, in Stark County, coming in between the McKinley Bulldogs and the Perry Panthers. McKinley had a very interesting week this past Friday night against Dublin Kaufman.
They took the definition of a road game to another level, traveling to Columbus to take on Dublin Kaufman, and it wasn't looking good at halftime. They were trailing, but McKinley comes back and pulls away. The Bulldogs now at 2-1. They go on the road again this week to open up Federal League play, as most schools in the Federal League do this week, Hoover being the one exception. Federal League, obviously, wide open since there's no Federal League games taking place yet. But, Mitch, this is a big game. This is a team in McKinley that a lot of people around the area figured one of the top teams in the area, but the issue going to Perry, tough atmosphere, Perry Panther fans at the Jungle going to be crazy. How does McKinley defend the wing T offense? And can Perry keep the ball away from McKinley, a team that has the potential on offense to explode at any given moment? Perry's the one team I think that can give McKinley fits because of being able to control the clock, run the ball, control time of possession, and that's kind of how you're able to beat McKinley. But with McKinley having the explosive offense and playmakers they have, they can stay in this. I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. I think the winner of this game has their place atop the Federal League for the first week of Federal League play, but also then controls their own destiny like most teams will this week, starting off Federal League play 1-0. You have 2 other Federal League games with Lake at Glen Oak, Green at Jackson, which we'll talk about here in a second. But to me, McKinley at Perry, this is a big one. Obviously, it's going to get difficult moving forward in Federal League play. Obviously, McKinley, their bye week in Fed play is their last week of the season when they take on Massillon in one of the best, if not the best, high school rivalry in all of sport across the country at the high school level. But this should be a good one. I'm not sure which way I want to say this could go, but I could see either one of these teams winning a very closely contested battle.
There are a number of games to get to here, and as well as the upcoming games in the IVC. We have Green up against Jackson. Jackson had an unbelievable week last week but they're going up against a Bulldogs team that has started off hot 3-0 on the year.
Yeah. Listen, Green 3-0. They've played Dover week 1. They played South Range in there as well. South Range, obviously, Division 6, but one of the top teams in their respective division. Green halting their win streak in the regular season. Green goes on the road now. Mitch, last year, this game came down to the wire. Green scoring a touchdown under a minute to play in the fourth quarter when Jackson thought they had it won. Obviously, a penalty allowed Green to keep moving that ball down the field. Jackson at 2-1, Mitch. And let's keep in mind who their one loss is to Menor. And it was a close loss at home. Then Jackson has that unbelievable, possibly the greatest comeback win Jackson's going to have in the history of their football program at Jackson against Mayfield. They went up, they handled business at Stowe. They did not get caught looking ahead. This is going to be a really fun game. Every time these two teams get together, this game has fireworks, has big plays, busted plays that go for big gains or touchdowns. This is where I'll be. I'll be on the sideline this week at Robert Fife Stadium at Jackson. I'm excited for this one because just going off of last year, you have to think these two teams are going to have another closely contested battle. I'm here for it. Once again, the winner of this game is going to have their foot ahead of other teams in the Federal League, starting off Federal League play 1-0. Green's defense has been really solid so far. Jackson's offense has put up quite the amount of points so far. Obviously, only 21, I believe, week 1, but that's against a tough Menor team. It's how does Green's offense go against Jackson's defense? Jackson's defense has been pretty solid. Last week, a shutout at Stowe. That's big. I'm very excited for this one. I know that stadium is going to be packed Friday night. Obviously, just right down the road on 241 is where Green's from, so I assume the Green faithful will be out there in full force. I am very excited for this matchup.
Absolutely, and that game against that Green beat Jackson last year was their first win against in the Federal League against them since they joined in 2015. I mean, a number of matchups there too. Massillon is going to be taking on an out of state opponent from Indiana. Massillon's one of the top offenses in the state so far this year at 3-0. They're doing what they need to do. North Canton Hoover also takes on Louisville, which is a very interesting matchup. Louisville's a 1-2 team, but they are still kind of developing. Coach Chris Kappa's trying to get those guys back together for what could be a good win against the Vikings later on this week. We also have, as I mentioned, Massillon taking on Elkhart in Indiana. Indiana's 1-2 on the year in their respect. Orville taking on Canton South. Canton South's gotten off to a hot start. The offense, one of the best in the area as well. And Lake and also playing against the Glen Oak Golden Eagles, who are 1-2 on the year. Lake is 2-1, and Lake is trying to begin their defense of last year's Federal League championship.
Yeah, look, Glen Oak had a really rough week too. We know that when they were at Massillon. Couldn't get back on the winning side last week, but at the same time, although it's week 4, this is really the start of their second season, right? Federal League play allows for many different possibilities, the familiarity factor of players returning from last year, also what new faces can do that coaches aren't prepared for. The nice thing for Glen Oak is this game is at home. Lake is always a tough place to play. We've seen it for a number of years now. When teams go to Lake, it's always a very tough place to play. One of the coolest places to play, in my opinion, in the Federal League. You'd have to think Lake has the advantage here, but at the same time, Mitch, this is a Golden Eagle team that's hungry. This is a team that's going to come out and realize, like, hey, this is the start of our second season here. We can make a statement beating Lake, the defending Federal League champions. Let's go out and see what we do. The Burt brothers, obviously, phenomenal athletes, tremendous talents under head coach Scott Garcia. Let's see what Glen Oak can do this week. This would be a huge win for Glen Oak to go to 2-2, get their first Federal League win, and I think Glen Oak's going to give Lake their best punch. And the question is can Glen Oak keep Lake down? We'll see what the Lake offense looks like. They've had some issues so far in the first couple weeks. Obviously, that week 1 loss to Alliance 12-7, the offense was not there. They get back on the winning side against Boardman then week 2, and then pick up another win last week. I think this game is going to be better than what people think. I think Glen Oak has a real shot here just because of the faces and athletes they returned from last year's team. There's only one way to find out, though. They got to play that game Friday night at Glen Oak, and then we'll talk about it next week. But I think all 3 Federal League matchups this week are good. I think Hoover, the team out in the Federal League that's out of the Federal League matchup at Louisville. Louisville will have their hands full with Carson Durlin, but Louisville also a tough place to play. We'll see if Chris Kappa can get the Leopards on the board with a big win in week 4 to go to 2-2. There's a lot of good games this week. I'm excited.
There's a lot of good games in the Stark County area. Now I want to take you over to Carroll County for our Big Time Sports Game of the Week. A preview will be out soon on our website, BigTimeSportsOhio.com. Let's talk about the Garaway Pirates against the Carrollton Warriors. Carrollton, for the second straight week, is facing an IVC opponent. For the third straight week, they face an undefeated team. They lost to Ridgewood last week, 13-0. But Garaway is coming into a contest from last year when they beat the Warriors 35-0 over in Sugar Creek. Garaway, I talked about early on in the year, they lost a lot of seniors from the last 2 teams that went undefeated for the regular season, made deep playoff runs, and Coach Jason Wallach has not missed a step in this year so far. A breakout in the last week was Brady Geiber, who was the quarterback for Garaway, had 198 passing yards in the first half against West Muskingum, 9 for 11, and the Pirates have outscored their opponents 106-18 in the first 3 weeks of the season, so it should be a good one here. Now, Carrollton, they're going to have their lumps this season. They are home this week and next week against Akron Garfield before they open EBC play very late in the season against undefeated, currently, Marlington. And another IVC matchup that I want to talk about is a matchup of undefeateds. Malvern up against Tuscarawas Valley. Malvern beat Tusky Valley 41-7 last season, but that was at a point when Malvern was undefeated and Tusky Valley was winless. Now, this is a very improved Trojan squad who's coming off a 45-14 win over the Fairless Falcons, and as well as a win over Martins Ferry 39-24. It's puts them in position for their first 4-0 start since 2001. Now, Cole Clements has been a very solid athlete over the years for Tusky Valley. He's their quarterback as a senior. You have guys in there like Logan McKinney, Virgil Myers, Colton Selinsky, John Leffler, guys who can do really good things for the Trojans on both ends. And Malvern, meanwhile, is off to a good start as well. They beat Harrison Central 22-20. Dylan Phillips is a guy who can provide some very good offense. what was he? He has 7 catches for 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. Julius Gore, a sophomore, is emerging as one of the top backs in the IVC. So I'm very excited to see this sort of matchup when IVC play is about to open here this coming week. I also want to shout out the Strasburg Tigers, who got their first win on the season. To kind of celebrated myself a little bit, but they got that win this past weekend. We're able to ring the bell for the first time this year, and hopefully not the last. Hey, Stark County, it's your friends from the local Board of Mental Health and Addiction Recovery, and we have a challenge for you. We're asking you to create a new habit and check in on someone every day. Nothing fancy, just a simple text, phone call, or note on social media to ask someone how they're doing. You don't have to be a professional, you just have to ask and then listen. Are you someone who could use a check-in? Text 4HOPE to 741-741 anytime, day or night, or dial 988. Brought to you by Stark County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery.
Wendy's without the Wendy's app is like Nugs without the sauce. Or a Frosty without the fries. Or a hamburger without the fresh beef. No! Level up. Get the app to order ahead, order delivery, earn free food, and get app-exclusive offers. One app, all the Wendy's.
Offer for a limited time at participating Wendy's. Terms apply. App registration required. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
Think Ferris. Where you matter.
You matter. Everyone plays a part. We all have a role. Each of us can make a difference. You do matter, and the best way to have a positive impact is to pay it forward. With each of us helping one another to cope, feel better, and know that we belong. Pass on the positivity today. Tell someone else they matter too. Alt Care.
Alt Care, Alt Care. Where you matter.
You invest a lot in your home and vehicle purchases. Van Nostrand Young and Associates want you to feel secure should anything happen to those investments. We partner with providers like Grange Insurance and other industry leaders to be sure you're presented with the most complete coverage to fit your needs. Because we're not only here to protect the items you invest in, we're here to protect your future as well.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
Happy Sardiversary with Sarda rider Anthony. We're celebrating 25 years with our valued riders.
And I absolutely enjoy riding the buses. I get to know a few of the drivers, very respectful, very professional. Just an all-around about good experience. It helps people get to where they're going. Disabled, veterans, or people going to work.
Thanks to all our riders as we celebrate Sarda 25 at Sarda.
So there we go from there. We go from there to, we can either go right back to college football, or we can go to the ground. I want to start with college football first because this is going to lead into the weekend. Because this week, after what happened against Indiana, which I should mention, it was a victory, by the way, a 20-point win to open the season for Ohio State. It was, and this is where I'm getting at here. It was a 20-point victory that was 10-7 at halftime, and I think Ryan Day saw that, and he thought, oh, I can't switch quarterbacks now. I have to keep my first guy in for the whole game. Kyle McCord played most of the game. I think Devin Brown played one series. I don't know, maybe one play. Look, they're going to play Youngstown State at home this week. It's very, very, very likely they're going to win. That being said, you got to figure out your offense in the next 2 weeks before you go to Notre Dame. That's what the Buckeye fandom is focusing on right now. And Kyle McCord, I think, didn't look terrible in this first game as a full-time starter. I think he looked like a guy who... This is what was tricky, because last week we talked about it. C.J. Stroud and Justin Fields and this crop of Ohio State quarterbacks we've had over the last decade have been so good that when you see an opener like that, for a guy who didn't get a ton of playing time to showcase his skills in the years prior, he only had one real game last year against Akron when Stroud was taken out of the contest. it's tricky to gauge where this quarterback system is now for Ohio State, and it's difficult to gauge the offenses because I think they did play conservative enough to where if they really wanted to put it on Indiana, I think they could have, even though Indiana kind of kept them in check a couple of drives, but it feels like it's more so we're worried about this offense, but that's because it just hasn't been able to get its get its land legs together. What's the term? Sea legs, land legs, whatever the term is. The offense just hasn't quite found itself yet, but it can against two opponents that they probably should steamroll.
Yeah, I think the other thing to that, too, is we mentioned it last week heading into the game. When's the last time Ohio State opened up on the road in Big Ten play?
Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to say Indiana was a hostile environment, but it's also not an easy environment to go in and play in, especially in Big Ten play. So Ryan Day being conservative, I think, played a factor knowing that it's Big Ten play. Like, yes, if you're going to lose early on in the year, that's the best time to lose. If you're going to lose, you don't want to lose a game, obviously. But it wasn't impressive. And at the same time, cool. A win is a win. There's no style points yet because the college football poll doesn't come out till what? Mid-October, early November? They fell this week in the poll, which this poll means nothing. They went from 4 to 5. When you go back, and I challenge our listeners and viewers to do this, if you go back and look at all the quarterbacks for Ohio State that started their first game of the season, their numbers aren't impressive.
No.
They really aren't. If you remember, C.J. Stroud's first game, I believe, at Minnesota.
Yeah, I remember that being rough.
Was not good. It had a lot of us going, oh my gosh.
And then he lost his second game.
Yeah, it was, this is our quarterback?
Yep.
Are we sure this is our guy? This offense is going to look different because we don't have that dynamic playmaker that we were so accustomed to. We always knew who the next quarterback was. This year we figured it was McCord, but then all of a sudden it was, Devin Brown's really impressing. There's these question marks. I don't like that Day's already come out again and said both quarterbacks are going to play this week against Youngstown State. Now, can you say that? Yes, because you're probably
this feels like it's going to happen.
Yeah, but you're also playing Youngstown State, a team that Mitch, according to the matchup predictors on any website, has a 1% chance to beat Ohio State. Your fun fact of the day is coming now, by the way.
Okay.
Ohio State has not lost to a school in the state of Ohio since 1921. Can you tell me who the last team they lost to in the state of Ohio is?
Oberlin College.
Exactly.
Really?
Oberlin
College.
I
just guessed on that. Wow.
Who's
okay.
not even a Division I football program anymore.
Nice.
They're Division III. There's not even a spread for this game, people. Let's understand that. This is not even bettable as of right now on most sports books because the talent level is so different. This is not a shot at Youngstown State. Okay, it's not.
Right.
This is not. I have nothing against Youngstown State. I like Youngstown.
They gave us Trussell. Yeah.
It's just let's be honest here. Ohio State has playmakers all over the field at every position better than what Youngstown State does. I think a lot of people were worried last week because who is the best player on this team?
Marvin Harrison.
And how many catches did he have?
2.
2 for 18 yards. When your best player is not going and not getting the ball, and then also has the hit where he falls on his shoulder, and you thought, oh my gosh, is this Smith and Jigba all over again? Is he hurt and he's going to sit out? It wasn't impressive, but at the same time, it's a win. All you can do right now is win.
He did have that catch in the end zone, but then was called back because he stepped out of bounds.
Yeah,
so I mean that's something there. I expect him to get back on it this week. But even then, I said this on the radio the other day. I have really bad Billy Beane syndrome when it comes to Ohio State football. Like I'd much rather keep away from watching the game and check the score on ESPN rather than suffer through the team giving up a 12-yard first down to Purdue, and I'm just like, damn it!
Yeah,
that goes to show how spoiled I am as a Buckeye fan, not how spoiled Buckeye fans are in general. Kirk Herbstreit's comments, we're not even going to get into those this week.
You mentioned it. Ohio State has 2 weeks to get ready.
Yes.
This is a tune-up game. Next week will be a tune-up game against Western Kentucky, and then the big one. I mean, Mitch, the way Notre Dame played last week was
against Navy, but
but at the same time, that's what you expected Ohio State to do against Indiana.
Exactly.
And it didn't happen. So that's why it has people reeling now. Is Ohio State really that good? Yes, they're still good. You had somebody break out last week that I think is probably a player that we don't even talk about enough in Cade Stover.
Yep.
Cade Stover is a tremendous football player. He's also just really likable when you read into his backstory about being raised on a farm and his nickname and everything. If Ohio State struggles against Youngstown State, red flag.
Well, yeah.
Right? But listen, if they win by 30, which I think they very well should, I honestly wouldn't be shocked if Youngstown State doesn't score unless it is on a fluke defensive scoop and score or a muff punt or the third stringers are in, Youngstown State finally gets on the board. But these next 2 weeks, Ohio State should have blowout wins. They should have impressive wins. If the offense doesn't look good, we're going to have a real conversation about, can this team go on the road and beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame on Saturday, September 23rd.
I'll tell you what, and that Youngstown State might not be able to score because the defense did come to play against Indiana.
Yes.
Like, that team showed how good it can be. Jack Sawyer is one of my top guys right now for Ohio State. He's been that way since, I think, last year. I mean, the amount of fourth down stops they're able to get that stunted Indiana's offense was good. I like the play calling there from the Jim, what's his name, the new defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles. Yeah, I like it. It's something that I'm going to look even more forward to in these next couple of weeks. And we forget the Big Ten. I'm going to get to the Big Ten in a second. Michigan didn't even have that great a game this week against their first. But the difference was they were up so much at halftime. Not even so much, 23-0, that they felt comfortable enough pumping the brakes a little bit. And we didn't feel comfortable at halftime.
No. And the other thing is, though, if you go and look at the total stats in those games, Michigan didn't really do better offensively than Ohio State did in terms of yards and everything. And they played a far less inferior team.
Right.
Let's be honest here. That's why it's week one. We overreact. We think, right now, Colorado is the talk of college football. Colorado might be the best team ever. Deion Sanders, coach of the year.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter, Heisman Trophy winner already. I would be lying if I said I didn't go in and put a bet in at halftime for Travis Hunter to win the Heisman, because it's just, after that performance, 130 snaps playing both ways is
crazy,
unreal. But that's our job to overreact. We're finally going to have big matchups going in this week. I mean, heck, Texas at Alabama, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
The following week, I can't think what the big matchup is. And then the 23rd, Mitch, you have Ohio State at Notre Dame. You have Colorado at Oregon, which Colorado, I would think, would be undefeated going into that. They play Nebraska this week and then Colorado State. But it's college football. Anything can happen. There's a lot of good football teams out here. We don't know enough yet to really sit here and tell you, this is a playoff team, this is a playoff team. They aren't a playoff team because we don't know yet, right? Our job is to overreact, which is what we're doing. Ohio State, I think, is fine. If they struggle over the next 2 weeks, then we should be concerned on if they can actually beat Notre Dame.
So it doesn't look like there's a ton of big ranked versus ranked matchups for week 3. A lot of the top 25 teams are facing off against those sort of iffy opponents. I mean, Ohio State is going to play Western Kentucky. Let's see here. I mean, no, that's not the one I want.
You have as of now, you have no ranked
nothing crazy.
You're 1 week away from
Michigan plays Bowling Green.
Getting another team in there to maybe be in the top 25, which we'll see. But no, really week 4, Mitch, which we're obviously a ways away. You have Ohio State, Notre Dame, Ole Miss at Alabama. That's top 25 right now. Florida State at Clemson. You want to talk about a team that really impressed. Florida State this week was unbelievable against LSU. That's another top 25.
And talk about a team who couldn't have been more disappointing against Duke in a 28-7 loss, where I think we've officially seen the end of Clemson's reign atop the ACC, unless they make a comeback here.
And then Colorado at Oregon. You have as of right now, 3 or 4 top 25 matchups heading into week 4, which we'll obviously preview more once we get there. But for everybody out there worried, just take a step back, breathe a little bit, go back and look at the history of Ohio State with the quarterback in his first start. Even that game at Virginia Tech the year after we won the national championship, where we had Cardale Jones, J.T. Barrett, and Braxton Miller.
Right.
They didn't get off to a great start right away. Now, they ended up winning that game convincingly, but let's remember, it was still...
Oh, yeah.
Now, that was probably more so, okay, we have 3 guys who can play quarterback. Not only do you have 3 guys that could potentially be Heisman candidates. We don't know what to do. We're going to make one of them an H-back. The other one's going to start. The other one will probably play as a backup. That's a different scenario because they were all proven. Mm-hmm. They'd all beat the crap out of Michigan already or won a national championship before. This is obviously different, but let's pump the brakes. Let's see what happens. Ohio State, Mitch, I have zero worry. They will beat Youngstown. I had somebody this week tell me at work, I think this could be Appalachian State at Michigan. I think Youngstown State could cover. I said, whoa.
I'll never say never. I'm always keeping that opportunity open, but at the same time, that's why I'm not worried as much.
But for him to say Youngstown State could cover, this could be Appalachian. I said, well, what is it? Is Youngstown State going to win? No. Then it's not Appalachian State at Michigan.
I don't think you can have that you can have that first week out the gate cold streak like Michigan had against Appalachian State. I don't think you can get that in week 2 normally.
So, especially at home now, too.
Michigan was at home.
But that was week 1, to your point. But now week 2, and once again, it's been over 102 years since Ohio State has lost a game to a team from the state of Ohio.
That is fascinating. I would have thought one of these teams would have gotten them. Well, don't they play Cincinnati here coming up? Well, last year I would have been worried. Now I'm not so.
Yeah, we'll see what Cincinnati is. I don't think we play them this year.
I know. I feel like it's. I
think we do have something.
Years,
I think it's a home and home coming up here soon. But
similar.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Well, speaking of crossing bridge, let's go over now to baseball, where we talk about a series that was so important to Cleveland here this past week against the AL Central leading Minnesota Twins. Didn't go the way we wanted it to. Not necessarily a complete failure, but when we saw that first night, I was hosting on the radio that Monday, and I thought to myself, okay, we get this first game out here. We get out to a good start. Let's see what happens here. We're 5 games back right now. And then the smackdown of a lifetime, to the point where when I saw a notification, when I saw tweets, David Fry pitching in the 6th inning, I went, what the hell? And then the next game, not great. The third game, okay, you get the victory 2-1 over Minnesota. It was rain delay. You have Will Brennan with a couple of big hits. Gavin Williams did what he had to do. Bullpen definitely did what it had to do. It's not going to be easy now because you're 6 games. You dropped a game after the series. You're 6 games back. You essentially have to go, I think, 18-5 over the next couple of weeks to have a realistic chance of coming back against Minnesota, because Minnesota has, I checked it, an easier schedule, the balance of it, rather than Cleveland does, because Cleveland now has to go out to the West Coast.
Yeah, they do. They have to head out there. Now, you're not playing, you play the Angels, which you should be able to beat. Obviously, you're not going to see Ohtani on the mound. Trout is still hurt. They've kind of given up once they cut all their players, which we claimed 3 of them, and one of them was Giolito, who
has to face him again.
Who aided the blowout on Monday night. It was, let's keep in mind, they took 2-3 from Minnesota just last week. They lost the first game. And it was like, okay, win the next 2, you're fine. They had a chance on Tuesday, and the bullpen faltered. Trevor Stephan did not have his stuff. And it's so difficult, and watching that game with my dad and watching it with others over the course of the year. When broadcasters can tell that a pitcher doesn't have his stuff, how can the manager or nobody else in the dugout see that? Because Trevor Stephan obviously didn't have his best stuff, and it was pretty apparent, obviously, when a pitch went to the backstop, it allowed a run to score. Then you had the triple, bases loaded, that,
triple.
Should Straw have played that easier? Yes. But at the same time, that is a Gold Glove center fielder who has saved relievers' butts all season long, and you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. And if he thought he could get there, you have to, because, Mitch, your season is technically hanging in the balance at that point. I had no issue with him trying to go for that ball. This offense also was not going to, if that ball drops, 2 are scoring probably, if not 1 more.
Nope.
This offense has given you no reason to believe they can score 3 within 2 innings to come back against a team like the Twins. But as of right now, as we record today, they have a 2.1% to make the playoffs. 22 games left. We played 140. Minnesota's also played 140. So yes, your backs are against the wall. Obviously, it's not over, but realistically, it's pretty much over. The Guardians are going to have to run the table, which I just don't think this team can do that. They go out west, they play the Angels, and they play the Giants. It's a team fighting for playoff spot. They come home, they play the Rangers. Now the Rangers are reeling. They have, for the first time all year, fallen below 2 games behind the first place leader in the West for the first time all year.
I really thought the ALCS was going to run through Texas.
Well, it still might, because the Astros now have woken up.
That's what I'm saying. Texas and Astros, I thought was going to be the one.
Yep. But then you have the Royals. The Orioles are coming to town. That's a team that's a playoff team. And the Reds are still very much alive. Then you go to Detroit. This does not get easier. Season's pretty much, to me, a wash. This team's not making the playoffs. A silver lining would be if they can finish above 500. And the real conversation that's going to start now is who is the manager next year, because Terry Francona did come out and say without officially saying
it's not.
I'm done.
Yeah, that's what, because we had it a few weeks ago. But then the MLB Network radio thing came out, and we're like, whoa, what is he saying here? And then we talked to Chris Antonetti yesterday at the ballpark, and he essentially said something along the lines of, like, what Tito has said over the last couple of weeks has started to make us, like, think about what to do. And that was kind of him saying, like, we need to consider our options here. Not in the sense of, like, should we move on from Tito, but I think it's more so Tito's moving on from us. What are we going to do here? And we're coming out with, and I'm seeing all these lists of candidates coming out now, and that's what sucks about it, is that if Francona has this mindset of, I'm about to be on my way out, then how do you maintain this team to be still competing for the last month, trying to do for the second straight year what was thought to be impossible, have the hottest stretch of your season be in September? I unfortunately don't see it happening here. If you can get something on the West Coast, maybe, and if Minnesota can start to falter here, then you can build up that momentum coming back home. But
you're going to need a 2013 run where they won their last 12 games of the season to get into that.
Yeah,
that's what you're going to have here. And it's just, and the wild card is out. Like, you're not getting the wild card spot. It's not Real. I mean, I'll pull up the standings right now. But
what is it? Texas, Seattle, and
we're 10 games back of a wild card
Tampa.
spot. It's not possible. Like, it's just when you look at the teams ahead of you, the Yankees, who are just a game above 500.
The last place Yankees.
Yeah. Then the Red Sox. Then the Rangers, who are now half a game back of a wild card spot. They have completely fallen off. In their last 10, they are 3-7. I mean, they have fallen off. Right now, the wild card would be Tampa, Seattle, and Toronto. This team, obviously, I said 2.1%, so there's always a chance, but they're going to have to get hot like 2013 or 17, where they won 22 in a row, to have a fighting chance. Because not only do you have to win, but the Twins have to lose too. And that's why that's the only logical possibility. Because for you to get a wild card spot, you have to go on a run and hope the Yankees, Red Sox, Rangers, and then, as of right now, the Blue Jays all just completely bottom out, which the likelihood of you banking on 4 teams bottoming out when 3 of those teams in the East, and they're going to play each other still this year, isn't likely.
No.
So it is what it is. It's a wash. Backs were against the wall with McKenzie going to the IL, Bieber going to the IL, Bell never performing, some people regressing like Oscar Gonzalez, Ahmed Rosario, who we moved on from. It wasn't meant to be.
They said there was plan. I mean, Bieber's pitching today, I think, in Lake County. McKenzie tomorrow. I think you see here in the next 2 weeks, they just shut him down because there's no point of maybe McKenzie to prove that he doesn't need the offseason surgery. Bieber, it's like whatever. So we go from that.
And it is time for another segment of Fuel, Move, Recover here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. I am now joined once again by Michele Iono, who is one of our top people over here in the area, a physical therapist, strength coach, and a data scientist, as well as the president and co-founder of Advancing Athletics, LLC. Michele, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Mitch.
And today, a big touch point we wanted to get into is knowing the difference between being hurt and being injured, to make sure that these kids, these student athletes out here know how to operate their bodies, how to operate their whether or not they can get back onto the field or a surface of play or not. And I want to talk to you, Michele. I want to know from your perspective the sort of differences you see from these sort of student athletes between being hurt and being injured.
Now's a great time for us to revisit this topic. We've touched on it briefly during past weeks, thinking about concussions, prepping for the start of football, like in our first episode, and just kind of building upon all these different subjects that we've already covered. I thought it'd be good that we come back and talk about this very important fundamental concept. Before we get into that, I just want to remind everybody that this is not medical advice. I am a licensed medical provider, but this is more general education. We'll talk about contact info at the end, but if anybody has questions about the things we talked about, you should go to your physician, athletic trainer, or reach out to me. I'm happy to give you some context for that. Any of us who have played sports in the past understand, generally speaking, this concept of being hurt versus being injured. Typically, we think of being hurt as something you can play through, being injured as something that requires some time off. Anytime you push your limits, anytime you're trying to achieve something as an individual or as a team, it requires you to push yourself past what you think of as your capacity, your max ability, your limit. That's why this is so important that we discuss and that we touch on, because you're going to need guts. You're going to need toughness, mental and physical, in order to achieve great things on the athletic field or court. But how do you know what you should push through and what you shouldn't?
And with that, I mean, a number of stories you might see from kids, especially when they get hurt, is that you want to try and like work your way through it, especially if it's not considered like visually egregious to a point, then kids are going to want to get back out there. Their coaches want to get them back out there. Maybe even their parents want them to get back out there. How does one sort of communicate or communicate effectively whether or not these kids should or should not be remaining in the area of play?
That's a great jumping off point, Mitch. I think generally you could think about it one of two ways. Number one is that if it's something that distracts you, something that you have to like kind of focus. Imagine that you're, trying to have a conversation in a busy restaurant, bar, cafe, and it's like, man, I'm really having to try to concentrate to keep my train of thought or to listen to whoever I'm talking to. So imagine that, but you're getting some signal from your body. That is often a delineation for being hurt versus injured. If you're on the hurt side, you just have to concentrate more, focus more. I can still run my routes. I could still, listen to the play calls. I'm still being coachable during practice and during competitions. I'm still able to complete my role successfully on the team, or, even if it's an individual sport, I'm able to finish my swing, whether it's golf or tennis or whatever the case might be. Versus if you're injured, even when you're trying to concentrate, you are unable to maintain the integrity of your role or your mechanics while you're trying to compete, whether it's in practice or in an actual match. So the way that so how do you know, right? So what allows you to be able to differentiate those things if you're not sure? Well, that's where we ask you to talk to your athletic trainer, your physiotherapist, and your parents. Those resources that we have available for kids. And this is why it's so important. There's been a lot of talk recently about having athletic trainers in all schools and how there's still over 150 schools that don't have athletic trainers at all in the state of Ohio, which is an absolute travesty. So that's something maybe we'll get into next week. Anyways, the point is, reach out to me if you need help with something. I'll get you in contact with people that are nearby. I've got contacts at orthopedic specialists, obviously myself. Talking with a professional will allow you to identify when you're unsure of if you continue to play, will this get worse? Or if you continue to play, you'll be able to recover through this process. That's the other big thing too, that you can use. Am I able to concentrate on my role and be successful, even when I feel whatever it is that you're feeling, your leg, your back, your hip, your shoulder, your knee, your elbow? Or am I having to limit myself, make compensations? I can't run full speed. I can't make sharp cuts. I can't hit the ball hard, whatever the thing might be. The second part of that is, if you're hurt, that typically will continue to get better as long as you're not aggravating it, whatever the thing is. It will continue to get better while you're practicing and competing, versus if you're injured, you'll feel like it's Groundhog's Day. Every day you feel the same, or you actually feel it worsening as you're going along.
I see. I mean, that's an interesting sort of dynamic I didn't really think about before. Hurt doesn't affect the performance. You can kind of work your way through it versus injured. I mean, I've had a few of those myself. And with that, you had a mention of you mentioned a few names there as far as who should be communicating with the student athlete. Obviously, the trainer we talked about. Obviously, the parents we talked about. What is it? I mean, the coach's role in this obviously is to show concern and try to help the athlete out as best as they can. But if they're not a medical professional and they're not directly related to the student athlete, how do you think they should kind of work their role in helping out a student athlete if they're hurt?
That's very astute of you to say, Mitch. The coach's role is to win games. The way you win games is making sure that you have the best players actually signing up for your sport and staying on the field. So of course it's important to have fun, take care of your kids, make sure they're not getting hurt, so on and so forth. But their main role is to be, field a competitive team and grow a program. The reason why I didn't include them is because their role is whether or not it's worth it for you to play if you're hurt. Like, okay, yeah, you're hurt. Let's just, we have a backup. It's okay. Let's give you a little bit of a break. You have your playing time that you can still kind of compete for. Or if you're injured, how severe is the injury? And where can we unload you? Where can we deload you? Where can we give you breaks? How long of a break? Let's be strategic. Let's work together. They should not be, however, the ones determining whether or not you're hurt or injured. Because they're biased, because they want to compete. And they may not be, and then most importantly, of course, is that they may not be a medical provider. Obviously, if they are a medical provider, then they would be included in a different way in this discussion. The point is, though, is that if the coach, the medical staff, your parents, they are on your side as an athlete. We want to involve them so then they can be an advocate for you, for the athlete, as you are moving forward in the season. So yeah, you're worried about losing some playing time if you're hurt, but what if you get injured? Now, all of a sudden, you go from having to like miss some like team practice, maybe you can do the individual groups, to now you actually have to back all the way off. And now you're missing weeks, months, seasons, years of a sport. And who is the person helping you understand, especially again, we're talking about kiddos, or even if we're not talking about kids, even if we're talking about adults, but you've never had an injury before, how do you know what that's supposed to feel like? Like this at my age now, I just turned 40 years old. I've had 3 surgeries and I've had multiple soft tissue injuries. I know what this feels like. And so I'm able to communicate that not only because of my training, but also because of my experiences. And so with with the coach, we absolutely want to involve the coaches, but they should be there to help give insight on the best way to return versus determining or deciding whether or not you should practice or not in a vacuum. Of course, if meaning like they should be involved in the process, but we should be going through a PT, an athletic trainer, parents, physicians, team doctors. Those folks are the ones that should be saying, okay, you can play through this, you can't play through that, so on and so forth.
Doc, for those of the listeners or viewers who are seeing this right now and might be seeking out services such as yours, where can they find you and where can they find Advancing Athletics?
So the easiest way to get a hold of me is via my email, recover@advancingathletics.com, or social media, my name, Michele Iono. You can follow and or see what we have going on with Advancing Athletics just by searching Fuel Move Recover on either Instagram or Facebook. And you can find my personal accounts on Twitter, X, and Instagram. So we really touched, again, we keep hitting surface level, just the nature of this kind of conversation. So don't hesitate to reach out and use all the resources that your school makes available to you so you can make sure you stay on the field, or if you have to go off the field, you're off the field for as little as possible.
Dr. Iono, we thank you once again for joining us for another edition of Fuel Move Recover here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show.
Vive Auto Sales, located on West High Avenue in New Philadelphia and Cleveland Avenue in Canton, is a used car dealership committed to getting financing for everyone. We give every customer that walks in our showrooms a prime buying experience, no matter their credit score or financial situation. Current inventory can be viewed at www.wefinancenow.com. Check out our Facebook pages for the most up-to-date information about upcoming events and promotions happening at Vive Auto Sales.
Are you trying to increase your speed, quickness, vertical leap, and agility? If so, NST Sports Performance is for you. NST trains athletes ages 5 through pro. NST designs each program specific to the athlete's needs, goals, and sports. For more, visit nstsports.com. Locations in North Canton and New Philadelphia. It's nstsports.com.
If you're looking for a new or pre-owned car or truck, why not see the Parkway Auto Group? Parkway is a special group of automotive experts with 8 brands to satisfy your needs. Come see the difference at the Parkway Auto Group on Commercial Parkway in Dover. 8 brands and 1 family. It's Parkway Auto Group.
The Furby Electric Supply Company has bright ideas for your home. Save money by converting to energy-efficient electrical products or add ambiance with beautiful lighting features. It begins with a professional consultation and a visit to the Furby Lighting Showroom. Then certified Furby contractors complete your project right and on time. Since 1934, 4 generations have built a reputation of quality and trust, and they offer emergency services too. Just visit Furby.com. That's F-U-R-B-A-Y. The Furby Electric Supply Company.
It takes a lot of practice to have a winning team. Alban Title has over 100 years of combined experience handling real estate, title, and escrow transactions. They serve Tuscarawas, Stark, Carroll, Harrison counties, and more. So choose Albin Title for your next home refinance, sale, or purchase. They'll get it done quickly and professionally. Contact Albin Title at 330-334-5800 or visit their website albintitle.com. Let them put their experience to work for you.
We all have 206 things in common. Our bones keep us up and moving. And we at Cleveland Clinic Union Hospital care about every single one of them. From the tip of your finger to a brand new hip, our orthopedic experts will keep you going while keeping you safe. For every break and breakthrough, for every bone and joint, for every care in the world. Get the care you need when and where you need it. Visit unionhospital.org.
Fall is in the air and part-time career enhancement courses at Buckeye Career Center are on the horizon. Registration is now open for Introduction to Beekeeping, Basic Small Engine Repair, and Sign Language. These part-time offerings run on Tuesday evenings and begin in November. Let Buckeye Career Center help you learn a new skill or advance your current skill set. Call 330-339-2288 for more information or to reserve your seat in one of these or our other part-time classes.
Have you checked in on someone yet today? This is your reminder. A simple text, call, or message. You don't have to be a professional to check in. You just have to ask and listen. Are you someone who could use a check-in? Dial 988 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A message from Stark County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery. We go over now to what everybody's been waiting on for the 7 months we've been out of season now, the return of National Football League contest. We are in our first week back, first regular season week back. The games count this Sunday. First game tonight on Thursday night between the Chiefs and the Lions. Should be a good one to watch there. I'm excited, obviously. Mitch is excited, and now we're just kind of gauging our thoughts going into the season. Obviously, we've talked ad nauseum about previewing our thoughts about the Cleveland Browns. I mean, it really is just a simple matter of getting these victories and getting off to a better start this year than we did last season. And I will say that I told you before we started filming today, if we go 2-2 to start the year, I'm fine with that because you get those first 3 out of 4 games against in-divisional opponents. If you take 2 wins against them, I think we're in good shape. Or 2 wins out of those first 4 weeks, rather, because I said I think we can win the first one against Cincinnati with a not 100% Joe Burrow. Pittsburgh, Monday night, that's going to be a hard one to win for me in Pittsburgh. Third one against Tennessee, you can win that. And then fourth one against Baltimore, you can win that. Or it kind of depends. But I could see this team getting off to a good start. I could see them being able to produce the offense better than they have. It just depends on the play calling. And if the defense just plays a little bit better than they did last year, it's going to be a major improvement.
2-2 to me is the very least you can be going to the bye week.
Yeah.
Week 5 bye week. But Mitch, I said it a while ago. I'm not going to fan scared anymore. Last year, I was the most pessimistic Browns fan as usual.
After that Jets, yeah.
Well, I mean, can you blame me after the Jets one? Let's be honest.
Yeah, but
that's a word that triggers PTSD for a lot of Browns fans, just because that's something we had never seen before. And ultimately, Mitch, I do believe that kind of set the table for games the next few weeks just with the Browns. Like, oh my gosh, like, oh, they just blew that game that, the Jets at the one point had like a 1% chance of winning. They did that. And then you play Pittsburgh on Thursday night, and I'll never forget I was there, and they had the onside kick, and you're sitting there just like, oh my gosh, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. It doesn't. I'm over it. Everything the Browns need is here. Player-wise, everything the Browns needed to do is here. Your only injury right now that you need to be worried about is Denzel Ward, which yesterday he was out of concussion protocol. It looks like he's still in it, but it looks like he's
in it, yeah.
It looks like he's going to play per what he said. Obviously, it's not what he says, it's what the protocol dictates and everything. Let's remember a few things. Joe Burrow's never won in Cleveland. Jamar Chase has statistically had his worst games of his career against the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
This team should be a lot better offensively, and it's going to come down to 2 things. Deshaun Watson being better, which through the preseason this year when we did see him, he looked a lot better. Kevin Stefanski. My only worry with the Cleveland Browns is the head coach, and it's how does he make sure this offense is in a spot to win? Can he manage a game that doesn't go his way all the time? Does he have good time management? And do the Browns have a kicker that can make a field goal to win the game now? And Dustin Hopkins. Outside of that, the Browns did everything they needed to do. They went out and got Dalvin Thompson to bolster the defensive line. Zadarius Smith outside, or the opposite side, of Myles Garrett now. Your secondary is very, very good. When you look at Denzel, if he's healthy, Newsome, Martin Emerson, You have Grant Delpit. Juan Thornhill's been really vocal so far. I think he is what we hoped John Johnson would have been when we had him and signed him from the Rams. Your linebackers, we know it's probably the weakest part of our defense, but with a good front and a good back end of your defense, hopefully they can mask that a little bit. The Bengals are going to be pre-gaming or planning for the Deshaun Watson they saw last year in Cincinnati, which I hope they do, because I think Deshaun Watson is going to be a lot better than what we saw last year. Nick Chubb is still Nick Chubb. I still think he's a top 3 running back. I think he's the best overall running back in the NFL. He's a better, if you had to pick one to be your running back out of him and McCaffrey, I'm taking Chubb. McCaffrey, though, has the playmaking abilities that we have not seen Chubb showcase yet, but because we had Kareem Hunt for a couple of years,
right,
we're going to see Chubb more, I think, all 3 downs in the field this year. I like the Browns. They're 2.5-point dogs at home, which is crazy. Joe Burrow obviously not playing at 100%. We know he's going to play, but you have to kind of go off of what we've seen against the Bengals. And for the most part, the Cleveland Browns have had the Bengals number since 2020. And I like the Browns this week. I think the Browns are actually a playoff team. I think if everybody stays healthy, which through training camp, yeah, you had Jakeem Grant, you had a couple other guys go down, but in terms of our best players, they're all healthy, right? Being good in the NFL, you have to obviously be good, but in sports, it requires a little bit of luck, right? Does the ball bounce your way sometimes? Can you avoid injuries? We've seen it before with other teams. The Browns are going to start 1-0 this week. They're going to beat the Bengals. I think they're going to go to Pittsburgh. I'm not scared of Pittsburgh anymore. I love all the hype regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, this is a dark horse team. Kenny Pickett's done this. Kenny Pickett didn't even have better stats his rookie year than Johnny Manziel did in Cleveland. Okay, I'm not worried about Kenny Pickett. I'm worried about TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick in that defense. I'm not worried about their offense. Najee Harris is an overrated running back. I don't even think he'll be the starter by the end of the year. I think it'll be Jaylen Warren. Oh, George Pickens makes great. Cool. Yeah, he can make all the great catches he wants. Can he get in the end zone? I'm not scared of the Pittsburgh Steelers anymore. I don't know what changed for me in the past few months, but I'm officially telling you the Cleveland Browns are back, and they're going to win their season opener for the second straight year in a row, which will be the first time since they returned in 1999.
It's because we started beating them more regularly, and they haven't won the Super Bowl since 2009, so that mystique of them is kind of worn off. Like, there's no polish on that car anymore. Have you checked in on someone yet today? This is your reminder. A simple text, call, or message. You don't have to be a professional to check in. You just have to ask and listen. Are you someone who could use a check-in? Dial 988 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A message from Stark County Mental Health and Addiction Recovery.
Wendy's without the Wendy's app is like Nugs without the sauce. Or a Frosty without the fries. Or a hamburger without the fresh beef. No! Level up. Get the app to order ahead, order delivery, earn free food, and get app-exclusive offers. One app, all the Wendy's.
Offer for a limited time at participating Wendy's. Terms apply. App registration required. Fresh beef available in contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
You deserve the best. And at Ferris Chevrolet, Buick, Cadillac, Toyota, that's what you get. We consider you, the customer, to be part of our family. Anybody can make promises, but when you visit Ferris, you get the Ferris deal from a Ferris wheel. So if you're looking for a car, truck, or van, think Ferris.
Think Ferris. Where you matter.
You matter. Everyone plays a part. We all have a role. Each of us can make a difference. You do matter, and the best way to have a positive impact is to pay it forward. With each of us helping one another to cope, feel better, and know that we belong. Pass on the positivity today. Tell someone else they matter too. Alt Care.
Alt Care, Alt Care. Where you matter.
You invest a lot in your home and vehicle purchases. Van Nostrand Young and Associates want you to feel secure should anything happen to those investments. We partnered with providers like Grange Insurance and other industry leaders to be sure you're presented with the most complete coverage to fit your needs. Because we're not only here to protect the items you invest in, we're here to protect your future as well.
Call Van Nostrand Young Insurance in North Canton at 330-497-1867.
Happy Sardiversary with Sarda rider Anthony. We're celebrating 25 years with our valued riders.
And I absolutely enjoy riding the buses. I get to know a few of the drivers, very respectful, very professional. Just an all-around about good experience. It helps people get to where they're going, disabled, veterans, or people going to work.
Thanks to all our riders as we celebrate Sarda 25 at Sarda.
You need to remodel your bath? You need JR Bath Company. Trust in the quality of JR Bath. It's fast, it's safe, and it's affordable. Call today at 1-800-664-2284 or go to jrbath.com. But I was going to say, don't spoil our pick'ems, because we're going to start off this week with the first of our, 17 or 18 NFL
18
pick'ems for this week, for this upcoming 2023 NFL season. We did it last year. We're going to do it again this year. We start off here, man. It's going to be a good year. We start off here. Detroit versus Kansas City tonight. Who are you taking? Kansas City, obviously, the favorite.
I'm going to lean with the favorite. I'm going to lean with the Chiefs just because I do think they're the better team. I love Detroit this year. I'm a little scared because the public loves them so much in terms of sports books and betting. They finally have expectations. This is the first time they've had expectations outside of Matt Stafford since the year they made the playoffs with Matt Stafford. But this team under Dan Campbell's continued to get better. I think tonight's game is going to be great. I really do. I think it's going to be a fun shootout. I think Jared Goff, Mitch, is actually one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL. I think the offense they have up there with what they're calling their two-headed monster, we can't officially say it is because we haven't seen Jahmyr Gibbs play a game that counts in the NFL yet, but him and David Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, they're going to get Jameson Williams back after 6 weeks after a suspension from the NFL. I'm taking the Chiefs tonight, but I do love the Lions this year.
Yeah, I'm going to take the favorites in this one as well, even though Travis Kelce, this is going to be an interesting sort of game time decision. There's never a point with the Chiefs and their top players where they're automatically out. It feels like. It always feels like if they have a tweak in practice, it's going to be a game time decision or they'll work their way back up. It all stemmed from when Patrick Mahomes took the hit in the playoff game against the Browns, where any other quarterback in any other situation, that guy would be out for the next month. But because Patrick Mahomes is the most important player on the Kansas City team at the time, that was them making sure they could get him back on the field as soon as possible, even with the concussion protocol. Okay, so you go from there, and I'm going to skip the game that I just had on my screen here. I'm going to skip that one, and then we're going to go over to our Sunday afternoon matchup. So we'll start off here with the list. Panthers at Atlanta against the Falcons, because some people are buying the Falcons this year in a weak NFC South.
Some people are. I'm not. I don't think Desmond Ridder is the guy. I'm buying the Bryce Young hype. Although I was kind of low on him at the draft with his size and everything, I think the Panthers made enough additions. Someone like Adam Thielen to help that wide receiver room, the veteran, Miles Sanders in the backfield. I like the Panthers this week on the road in Atlanta to start off 1-0.
I almost asked you if didn't Adam Thielen retire, and I thought, that's Kyle Rudolph. That's the other Vikings guy. I'm gonna go. I'll go Carolina here as well, but very slightly. I don't think they're going to be a big blowout win. Jacksonville at Indianapolis. This is one. Jacksonville coming off a playoff victory. A lot of people. There are some people that are taking them as a top AFC contender this year, not just the AFC South, but Indianapolis will be at home. I like what Anthony Richardson looks like as a potential franchise quarterback. That being said, I'll go Jacksonville on the road.
I'm going to take Jacksonville here. I am not buying the Jags hype, though, as being one of the top teams in the AFC. Well, they play in the AFC South, bad division. Probably both Souths are the worst divisions in football, AFC and NFC, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
I'm not ruling out the Titans because Mike Vrabel's a good coach. His defense always comes to play, and just in terms of why I don't think the Jags are this. Mitch, there's some people who think the Jags are going to be the number one overall seed in the AFC.
Yeah, who was it on Twitter the other day? I saw it was not. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, I saw the same thing you did.
Their schedule is going to be tougher this year. People forget the schedule is dictated off the success you had last year.
Yeah,
their schedule is going to be tougher this year. I need to see it again. I do. They didn't win their division until the last week of the season last year. And they had to beat Josh Dobbs at quarterback, who was with the Titans for 13 days.
Yeah.
Who started that game.
He did.
They won their playoff game against the Chargers last year. I thought the Chargers were the biggest frauds in the NFL. Kind of came true in that game. They're going to win against the Colts. I'm excited to see Anthony Richardson. I think he's one of the top rookies I'm most excited to see because
I agree.
I want to see what he can do with the NFL. This is a guy that they were high on, obviously not high enough to be the top quarterback taken or the second quarterback taken, but without Jonathan Taylor, I just don't think that team's going to compete yet. Will he ever come back? I don't know, but Jags week 1, I'll take him on the road in Indy.
Okay, next one should be easy. Tampa Bay at Minnesota. Vikings have their starting quarterback. Tampa Bay does too. If this is one where Minnesota just lets it down, that's going to set the tempo. That's going to set the tone for the rest of what would be a disappointing season. I'm going to take Minnesota, but I'm doing that with the caveat that they really need to get the job done against a much worse Buccaneers team.
Minnesota's should win this game.
Yeah.
It's at home. You have the best receiver in all of football in Justin Jefferson. Kirk Cousins had a very, very, very good year last year. Made me eat my words. My only worry, outside of the Buccaneers just playing good football, you lost Dalvin Cook. Alexander Mattison is a fine running back. He's not Dalvin Cook, though. You lost Adam Thielen. You replaced him with a rookie now in Jordan Addison. You still have KJ Osborne. If they're able to take away the Buccaneers, if they're able to take away Justin Jefferson, can Kirk Cousins find the receiver he trusts to get the ball to? I'm taking Minnesota. I think Tampa and Baker are going to have a better year than people think. A lot of people don't realize, and this is where I kind of look into small things. The Seattle Seahawks last year were phenomenal, right? Geno Smith proved everybody wrong.
Yep.
His offensive coordinator left and is now in Tampa Bay.
Yes.
With Baker. This is Baker's last chance. We know Baker typically performs best when his back is up against the wall. I think the Bucs are going to be a good team this year. I'm not picking them to win week 1. I won't be shocked if they do because the question marks offensively with the other receivers and the running back in Minnesota. TJ Hawkinson, I think, is a top 5 tight end in the NFL for the Vikings. He's questionable. Should play, it seems like, but I'll take the Vikings here. Won't be shocked if Baker pulls off the upset week 1.
Okay, so the next one is New Orleans, and they play host to Tennessee. So the Titans are in New Orleans. This could be an interesting one because if Tennessee gets off to a slow start, then I could see New Orleans maybe stealing a victory. I need a little bit on the decision. I need to hear you first before I make a decision.
I think Tennessee is the most underrated team in the NFL. I think, like I said, Vrabel, Tannehill's there. Tannehill's an average quarterback, but now they have DeAndre Hopkins. He has to stay healthy. That allows Treylon Burks to move to wide receiver 2 instead of wide receiver 1, which I think takes a load off his plate. They still have Derrick Henry, who's a top 3 running back. I think in terms of best pure actual running backs, it's Chubb and him and Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
But I can't shy away from what I'm predicting. I can't shy away from what I think is the biggest surprise in the NFL this year, and that's the New Orleans Saints. I think they're winning the NFC South. I think they're making the playoffs. They have, in terms of quarterback play, Mitch, one of the easiest schedules in the league. I don't think they have anybody that was ranked higher than a top 20 quarterback on their schedule as of now this year. I'm taking the Saints at home. High on the Titans, though, to be a team that kind of surprises people. They're over-under win total 7.5. I love that over. But I will take the Saints here because I also have them winning the NFC South.
Yeah, I got the Saints as well. Okay, so Niners against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. It's a very rare matchup between these two teams. Look, this is San Francisco. They're coming off an NFC Championship run. Brock Purdy returns as your starter. You have a number of good guys on offense. You just signed Joey Bosa to one of the largest defensive deals in history. I think this will be a Steeler loss, but I think it's going to be very close. They're going to keep it close at home. I think San Francisco will pull it out.
If it's close, I think it's just more so the offense doesn't look great for the 49ers. Obviously, Purdy didn't get to practice as much as all these other quarterbacks throughout the NFL because of the injury. Don't forget, when he got hurt last year, there was belief he might not be ready to play this season.
Right.
And now he is. That's why they got rid of Trey Lance. They have Sam Darnold there as the backup quarterback. I think the 49ers go on the road. They win week 1 in Pittsburgh. I'll give it to Pittsburgh. I think it'll be close, but I also just think the 49er defense is going to throw a wrench into anything the Steelers have game planned offensively.
Arizona at Washington. This is going to be an easy one. Washington's rejuvenated, I think, under the new ownership. They're not going to come out slow in week 1. Arizona's going to have the number 1 pick come next March and April.
You're doing it because of the ownership being rejuvenated. I'm just picking the Commanders because the Cardinals are just going to be
That's what well, it's that too, but I think it's kind of like who was it? It's kind of like what we were saying about Colorado, how they were coming out with guns blazing, trying to make sure that they had something to prove. I think Washington comes out. They're not going to be a great team. They might be the 4th best team in the NFC East this year, but it's still a good division, and they can compete in some games this year if they can get all their stuff together. Sam Howell could do something interesting.
I agree. I'm not sitting here telling you they're a sleeper team of mine. I'm picking to make the playoffs or anything, but I think they're a team that could actually surprise people and actually have more wins than losses at the end of the year, and beat some teams that you don't expect them to beat. With Sam Howell there, keep in mind they played the Browns last year with a chance to make the playoffs still, and they started Carson Wentz.
Yeah,
even though Sam Howell's numbers last year in the games he finally played were pretty solid.
Yeah,
I think Sam Howell might actually be a guy for them. We'll find out. And if not, this could also be a team that ends up bottoming out on purpose. New ownership, they'll fire Ron Rivera, get a new coach, and maybe they make a play for Caleb Williams. We'll see. But Arizona is going to be the worst team in football this year. James Conner's the running back. He's not going to have a great season because teams are going to stack the box because who's throwing the football? We don't know.
Josh Dobbs.
Is that the starter?
That's a starter.
Yeah. Listen, I love Josh Dobbs. He's a great guy, smart guy. I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't already go through my entire week 1 through 18 pick'ems and picked against the Arizona Cardinals because I just don't think this team. If the Browns went winless and we had some talent on that team, which we did, in terms of player names, this team cannot possibly win a game. This team's terrible.
So you're saying Arizona is going to go winless this year?
I think the Cardinals are going winless. I don't see any way. First off, if they want the number 1 pick, why would Kyler Murray come back once he's healthy? He shouldn't. And if they're going to take a quarterback, why would they bring him back, risk injury if they're trying to move on from him? I don't. That organization to me is a mess. They had their head coach come out the other day and say, I'm the reason the Eagles lost the Super Bowl. So their head coach is still bent up on the Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs. It's a mess in Arizona. I think they're going winless.
I mean, I'm looking at the end of the season schedule here. It's not easy at the end. I'll give you that. 49ers, Bears, Eagles, Seahawks. Obviously, the NFC West they have to play through. They have to play through the NFC East and the AFC North. And yeah, that's actually you might be onto something here. I mean, I can't predict that any team is going to go winless because it's such an anomaly. It's only happened 3 times since 1976. But some team has to give up at the end of the season in order for them to just leak through. And
who's their Week 18 matchup you just said? Seattle. Yeah, so the only way would be if Seattle's resting all their guys to if they're in playoff position.
I don't know, man.
Which at the same time, didn't the Steelers rest some of their guys and the Browns lost the last game of the season to them?
What was that last year? Yeah.
No, I'm saying the year we went winless.
Oh, yeah.
That was sometimes it doesn't even matter.
Sometimes
it just doesn't even matter.
In the end, yeah.
Even if they don't go winless, Mitch, they're not winning more than 2 games this year.
Yeah,
I will
that'll
stand on that.
That'll give you.
I think
sure.
it's more likely they go winless.
Okay, one team I thought was going to go winless over this last run that they've had. The Houston Texans are in Baltimore this week. I think this will be a Baltimore victory. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, Houston's kind of getting its stuff together, but another new head coach. C.J. Stroud still kind of finding his footing a little bit, it seems.
No offensive line.
I
think Houston's another year or 2 away. In terms of being
if he and Lamar have like a shootout, that'd be amazing. And we get to see something out of him there, but at the same time, yeah.
I also want to preface, I think Baltimore wins this game convincingly.
Yeah.
Let's not overreact if they put up a lot of points.
No.
This is a new offense with Todd Monken. This is an offense that people are thinking are going to throw the ball all around and everything. They might. Houston is a bottom 3 team in the NFL.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to overreact here if they do that. If they're, oh my God, they put up 48 points. They're a top team. Like, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Much like we did with Ohio State just 2 segments ago. We'll see what happens.
Here's an interesting one. At Chicago, it's them against Green Bay. No, you're not buying the Bears at all in this game?
Oh, I'm buying the Bears.
Oh, you're buying the Bears.
I thought you were about to try to sell me on the Green Bay Packers.
I
think this is a bottom 5 team in the NFL.
Wow, okay. I'm
not sold on Jordan Love. And that kills me because as soon as the Packers took him years ago, I thought he was going to be the next really good thing. I won't even lie to you.
I mean, if they took him, I can see why they thought that. I think Chicago's still going to be a team that's a year away, but from what they were able to do last year as a bad team, compared to what they're able to do, get a good receiver in DJ Moore for Justin Fields, kind of bolster the rest of the team a little bit. I think this is a team that can win 6-7 games and then keep building their way up under Matt Eberflus, and who knows what'll happen here in 2025. Maybe Justin Fields will be a perennial Pro Bowl candidate by then.
Let's remember the Bears had the number 1 pick in the draft, and they were still exciting last year.
Yeah,
like they were a fun team to watch.
Well, Fields was exciting last year, not the rest of the team.
But they go out and they get DJ Moore to help Justin Fields. The defense, you're thinking will probably be better. I'm taking them to beat Green Bay here. I agree with you. I think they're still a year or two away from playoff contention, but I still think that in terms of them being the number one pick, I think that's kind of out the window. Mostly because the other teams in the NFL, but also I think Fields steps up. I'm hoping he steps up as a former Buckeye and really performs well. I can't get behind the Green Bay Packers.
Especially with the two other teams. Detroit breaking away now is possibly the runaway team in the NFC North. Chicago's got a spot in there maybe for second place. Las Vegas against the Denver Broncos in Denver. Apparently Sean Payton's telling Russell Wilson to shut up. Las Vegas is a team that's kind of interesting. I'm expecting around 500 this year. Maybe Josh McDaniels might lose his job if they don't get to that point. But I say Denver wins this one, but that doesn't mean that's going to jumpstart them into a playoff-bound year for now.
I think Denver is the team with the most question marks in all football because of the expectations of last season. Falling flat on their face. Now they get Sean Payton out of retirement. This is a guy that is very brutally honest. That's why that quote came out that he told Russell to knock it off. You're worried more about Russell Inc. than you are about your football career.
Did you see that his latest tweet, by the way? He hid one of the replies that said, like, didn't your coach tell you to shut up? That's brutal. That's brutal.
Well, let's be honest. It's what it started to turn into, at least from we're not Denver Bronco fans. I mean, when you look from afar, it's like you see all these things of, I'll never forget the video he put up, Mr. Unlimited. Mr. Unlimited. Like, no, Russell, last year you were pretty limited in Denver. You were more than limited. You were bad. I just don't know what to expect with the Raiders. They have a top 5 receiver, top 7 receiver in Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo has an issue of staying healthy. Josh McDaniels' job is more than likely on the line this season. I will go with Denver because they're at home. I just don't know what the Raiders are.
I don't either. Philadelphia at New England. New England's offense is pretty anemic. Philadelphia is the reigning NFC champion. Give me Philly. I'd take the points and more with that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. I just don't think the Patriots have what it takes. I think they're the worst team in the AFC East.
Dolphins in LA against the Chargers. Interesting one.
Fun one.
Could be a shootout.
That's the thing is I feel like every time we think these games are going to be shootouts, somehow the defense steps up and it's just not. You're like, oh, I think it's 38-35. The final's 21-17.
This one I think will be, and I think Justin Herbert's going to edge to a Tagovailoa on this one.
Yeah, I have the Chargers winning this one. I'm excited to see them, much like the Broncos, now with Kellen Moore there in LA as the offensive coordinator. They added Quentin Johnston from TCU, the team in the national championship last year. He should be somebody that could benefit a lot. Herbert, I think, has a lot of pressure, whether it's deserved or not, on him after that playoff performance last year. I think Staley is a coach that is on the warm seat, the hot seat, because if this team does not perform with Austin Eckler and these receivers and Justin Herbert, he might be on his way out in LA because let's not forget, last year we talked about him and Kevin Stefanski a lot when it came to their fourth down decision making and how many times it cost both teams. This is kind of a prove-it year for Staley, I think, out in L.A.
I still picked him for coach. I mean, I really thought coach of the year, and then it just didn't come to be. Rams at the Seahawks. Seahawks, this is pretty... I mean, it's not like the Rams are going to be the worst team in the NFC West this year, but I still think they're kind of an aging team, and, who knows what'll happen.
They are. Stafford should be back. He's voiced his, he doesn't know all these young guys they have, which can be somewhat concerning, but at the same time, much like, remember Jamar Chase wasn't catching anything in the preseason because the ball was different. Like, okay, who cares? The one thing you should care about is Cooper Kupp's out. And McVay came out yesterday and said he might be going to the IR, which means a minimum 4 weeks. That is awful. It's awful for a football fan in general because he had one of the best seasons of all time. And realistically, probably the best season a receiver has had since Calvin Johnson in Detroit in our lifetime, I'm trying to think. Just a dynamic playmaker, and he's out. Seattle, I'm interested to see. I mentioned OC leaving to go to Tampa now with the Bucs. Is Geno able to build off last year, or was the offensive coordinator a big part of that success for Geno? Smith and Jigba, former Buckeye, will play per Pete Carroll, he said. Excited to see him up there with Lockett and Metcalf. That has potential, Mitch, to be one of the best wide receiver rooms in all of football, I think. We'll see. We'll see with Kenneth Walker up there. They drafted Zach Charbonnet, whatever, the backup running back. I like the Seahawks this year. I think they win this one.
We got Dallas and New York Giants in the Sunday night game.
Something's got to give. Cowboys under Mike McCarthy have lost 3 consecutive season opener games.
Mm-hmm.
However, the Cowboys have also won 10 straight games against New York Giants. What's going to give? This is in New York. People are so high on the Giants after making the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Also remember, what is it? At least 3 teams from each league or each conference do not make the playoffs that made the playoffs the previous year. I think the Giants are one of those teams. I do think the Cowboys do it, but I think the Cowboys do it differently than years past. I think this is going to be a run-first team with Tony Pollard and Deuce Vaughn, the rookie out of Kansas State. I do like the Cowboys here.
I do too. Monday night game, Buffalo against the Jets. Is it, Mitch, is this going to be the second worst thing to happen to New York on September 11th?
Yeah, the Bills are blowing them out.
Yeah, I think so too.
100%.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, because Aaron Rodgers could put up a game, and I think he could put up for the first half, but I think Buffalo is going to run away with it in the second half, and the defense is not going to be able to stop them. I think, Rodgers might throw a pick here or two, or something's going to get stopped.
I think that, look last year, right? Denver, you had all this hype, and they faltered out. Now, I don't think the Jets will be that bad. Let me be very clear there.
No, they could. They could be a playoff
Jets
contender.
Could be a very good team.
Yeah.
What it looks like week 1, though, is always the question mark, right? Like, what is it going to look like? Dalvin Cook getting there so late could be a huge plus. Rodgers is going to be Rodgers. He's going to get the ball to Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard. Who else do they get in the offseason? They get Cobb, too.
Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson.
No, that's the Packers team you're thinking about.
They basically just got all the Packers back.
Okay.
They got back Eddie Lacy. They got Donald Driver. They got Charles Woodson.
Greg Jennings.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Brett Favre.
Oh.
For another run. Yep.
Oh.
Second run with him.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to buy the Jet hype. I also don't want to buy it just because of buyer's remorse from the past few years with other teams. I mean, heck, the Browns after getting Odell Beckham Jr. after Baker's rookie year. A lot of question marks there. I think Buffalo's the team that has a lot to prove in the AFC. I think Buffalo, after how their season ended last year in that playoff game against the Bengals, Stephon Diggs being frustrated on the sideline. Remember that?
Yeah.
And him being upset with Josh Allen and McDermott, and then in the offseason, the Twitter and everything, which blah, 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 whether you want to read into it or not. I think the Bills come out and make a statement right away that this is still our division. We are still the team to beat. We don't care if you have Aaron Rodgers. We're still a top team in the AFC, and they're a team that has Super Bowl aspirations.
I agree. So then Monday, we have the Monday night game there, and then finally we have the game Cincinnati versus the Browns. You know what we're taking. Mitch said it already. He spoiled it. I'm spoiling it right here. Browns over the Bengals, week 1. Cincinnati is going to come in, and they are going to see how this Cleveland Browns team is not just going to go away like any of these other years. We're going to take those previous matches against the Bengals this year, and we are going to show why it's going to continue, why last season's end-of-year loss to Cincinnati was a fluke, and how this year the Browns are going to be here to stay atop the AFC North, or around the top of the AFC North, and potentially the AFC as well.
Remember, a win on Sunday means we're going to the Super Bowl. A loss means we're going to have a top 5 draft pick, because that's what us Browns fans do. We overreact like no other.
And that is our fact of the day. And thank you so much for listening or watching the Big Time Sports Podcast Show.